And we're back within our last segment, Larry. And during this segment, I would like to go over what environmental health testing is doing in order to prepare those inspectors within this new era.
Well, again, our initial mission through the National Registry of Food Safety Professionals was to develop an accredited examination program. And what that does is helps ensure that the training done by third-party independent training companies that have a wide variety of training tools is effective. And so, for example, let's just say that you want to become a certified manager and you go sit in a class. Well, you could sit in a class and say, Carlos is certified, but we don't know, in effect, if you've been asleep, if you paid attention, perhaps you're doing work on your PDA. What the examination does then is test your knowledge so that when you hold that certificate out, in fact, it says Carlos does indeed know a sufficient amount of information about food safety to apply that.
Which is important, because it's not important to assist to class. It's important that the class get into yourself.
It is, but we're actually taking it a step further, because one of the things we recognize, and I'll try not to get boring with an exam program, but within the framework of the examination, there's what we call areas of knowledge, and those are the most important parts of the food code that through studies we know that people have to learn. And there's 18 of those areas. Well, just because you passed the exam with, say, an 85 doesn't mean that you were proficient in each of those areas, and perhaps you might be very deficient in 3 areas, but you were very good in others that you were able to pull your score up. So what we're starting to do now is help identify what we're saying are the risk gaps. And so perhaps in a company, the overall passing score is 88, but in let's just say sanitation, they're an average score of 65. Well, we can go back to a company now and say, you've got a real risk factor here. Yes, indeed, your people are passing, but in fact, you've got a very low score in sanitation. You may want to do something about that. In fact, we've just finished developing a series of tools that are offering on the internet now, after the fact, that you can come in and purchase and say, gosh, we just recognized that we have a weak area here. We need to continue our risk mitigation factor. In other words, it's not just a matter of sitting for a class once, taking an examination and coming back in 2, 3, 5 years and doing it again. We want to teach it as an ongoing process. We want this to be a continual effort. They change
very fast.
They change very fast, and people can forget. And oftentimes it's not top of mind until it's in the news. And let's face it, whether you're in the retail industry, the restaurant industry, it's a fast-paced environment. It's a very fast-paced. It's easy for things to slip through the cracks. And so if we can help provide the kinds of reminders to people to help them remember the little things they have to do to keep people safe, and I think we've in effect done something. So this has been a real change for us to go from beyond just offering an examination to really taking a look at post-exam. How can we continue to support people, again, and be genuine food professionals?
To what those inspectors are exposed if they don't perform as they're supposed to? Or they are at risk of being in jail or something? What is the...
Well, I don't think they've taken it as far as China, where they tend to execute people who do things that are wrong, but it's a challenge. I do think it's a challenge, and we've seen that. And there's no real penalties. You're probably transferred from one job to another. And I think that's part of the challenge.
What is my concern? Because with this economy situation that everybody's going through, those inspectors have to be under a lot of pressure from corporations. So they need to have some kind of penalty so they stand for what they learned during their process.
There's another organization called the National Environmental Health Association, and most of the health inspectors belong to that organization. And again, it's like everything in the U.S., there's fragmentation because there's probably another 4 or 5 other organizations that approach that as well. But they also have a series of certifications, ironically, that our company also manages. One is called a registered sanitarian. They still use the term sanitarian, and it's tied into a higher level learning program that they have to pass. There's another one called the certified professional in food safety. Again, so it takes what's called a registered sanitarian, where it's all things that a health inspector has to know, down to the certified professional in food safety, which really focuses on a higher level of understanding of food safety. And so what this particular organization has done in its relationship with its members is to say, look, if you're in the area of health inspection, if you're in the area of food inspection, you need this higher level credential in order for you to succeed. Some states, California is a great example, actually require what's called the REHS, Registered Environmental Health Sanitation Expert, to be licensed, in effect, to do their work in that particular state. But again, we're 50 independent states, and there's going to be 50 independent ways of looking at it. In some cases, even cities, you take a state like New York has its own set of regulations. New York City has another one altogether. So
well, you know what?
It's the challenge of our country.
When something like the salmonella outbreak happened, it affects all the states.
Well, and that's what it comes back to, is what I had shared with you a little while ago. Until the consumer stands up and asks really good questions, and ironically, what drove the president to make this decision this morning to begin consolidation of these very agencies was the fact that all he could think about was the fact that his daughters eat peanut butter. What he had was a consumer reaction to the problem.
That's true.
And it wasn't a matter of
him to take action.
It wasn't science. It really wasn't science. I mean, he's delving into the science, and his people are delving into science, but in fact it was a consumer reaction. If you multiply that by millions and millions of Americans who would stand up and say, I want to understand what's going on. Exactly. You'll see change.
Larry, has been a pleasure sharing with you all this.
Well, as always.
But, the time has gone, and I would like to see you again here maybe in 3 months, and
there'll be more good news.
Thank you. To all of you, thank you for being with us. See you in 7 days. Bye-bye. God bless you.